The police state ends with me. We've made it one more day. Picking up where we left off yesterday, I was being detained in my driveway by the police and the DA. That's where we left off. The investigator was way overboard. He was accusing me, telling me to admit to something, saying, "You know what you've done." He told me to get a job and made fun of my candidacy for Bartlesville City Council. I want to point out, what country is this supposed to be when the government police are going around telling innocent people to get a job while they detain them in their driveway, steal their property, won't let them call anyone or use the bathroom or anything, and tell them to get a job and make fun of them trying to run for public office? I mean, that's outrageous. So, just for a second, let's not pretend we really live in a free country with civil rights. Not when things like this happen. And it is happening, and not just to me in this country. It's happening to a lot of people. I mean, think how outrageous that is. The investigator said he had enough evidence to arrest me, and I needed to admit to what I've done. I said I haven't done anything, of course. We, of course, now, with all this time that's gone by, know he had no evidence, and of course he didn't. He had no evidence then, he has no evidence now, as it doesn't exist, as I didn't do anything. And this is another thing I want to point out, but let me point out that the police can lie legally. I mean, you do know that, right? The Supreme Court has ruled that the police can lie. They can lie to you, they can lie to me, they can lie to the media, they can simply lie and not be held accountable for it. It's basically an ends justifies the means kind of a thing. They think they want someone to go to jail so they can just lie about things to get them there. You can look it up, talk to a lawyer. It is the truth. The police can just lie about anything. And even when they shouldn't be lying, like in court, who's going to be holding them accountable? Just Google the term test-a-lying. It's a joke term off of the term testifying. It's test-a-lying. And you'll see that it's a common police practice to simply lie on the witness stand. Also look up what is known as the Brady List, or Brady Cops, which is another term for how common it is for police to lie and plant evidence. They don't care if you're innocent or not. They just want to force you to say you did something you didn't do, or punish you at the behest of a large corporation, former employer that wants you to suffer. Freedom. Moving on. The investigator told me he knows about my history. Apparently getting this from the Jane Phillips folks. He knows all about me, doesn't like me, and thinks I'm a criminal simply because of what they said to him. So he says he knows all about me writing letters before, and this was back in 2009, those absolutely legal letters I wrote about harassment. He says, "I know about the letters you wrote and leaving the hospital feeling wronged." And apparently this was his basis for believing Mike Moore, James Brazel, and other people, because I'd filed that EEOC complaint, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission complaint, of harassment on my supervisor back then in 2009. And I've already gone into great detail about that, so I won't go over all that again. I'm sure you'll be happy not to rehear that. I will say this: I followed the EEOC laws when I complained in 2009, which states I can complain about harassment to anyone and can't be retaliated on. I wrote those letters with great detail, and I sent those to the board of directors of Jane Phillips, of St. John's, of the ethics committees of the board, the EEOC, the medical staff, every media outlet in a 50-mile radius, and to anyone else I thought that would listen. Not one single person followed up with me back then. So after writing all those letters, I just moved on. I mean, I figured somebody might care, but unfortunately in the climate we live in, people, they don't want to believe one person when they come forward and they say, "I've had a problem." They just want to say, well, if it was a problem, it would get resolved and more people would be complaining. But people are afraid to complain. Look what happens to you when you complain. You get your life put at risk. You get your house torn apart. You get, I mean, what's happening to me now is an extension of those complaints I made back in 2009. That's what this is. And, you know, they want to make sure that people know that if you complain, this is what happens to you, and people are afraid to complain. You know, while no one followed up with me and I didn't get any response to all those letters back in 2009, you can be sure I didn't make a lot of friends with the leadership of Jane Phillips Medical Center, even though those were friends from childhood, many of the people that were there. Now remember that this, what I'm reading you, is what I wrote right after the raid on the house. So there's more to this, and it will come. Just, you know, wait for it. So as I write this, back then after the raid, I simply wait to be informed why this is happening to me. I'm falsely accused of a crime I didn't commit, crimes that could not only take away my ability to run for city council, but also I could lose my right to vote and spend many, many years in prison. So again, I say, you know, remember I wrote this back right after the raid on March 6, 2015. I know I have a better grasp now of why this happened, and I will go into details about that later. The 5 Bardaville police officers and district attorney found nothing to arrest me after tearing my house apart. They found nothing to arrest me from previously going through my trash and stealing my trash can, which is a crime. And now the investigator called me, this was a couple of days after the raid, to record a conversation of him saying that he never got on my computer at my house, but he did, because I saw him through the window, and that's why they later moved me to the driveway so I couldn't see him. They initially detained me right outside the front door on the steps, and the curtains were pulled, but one of the police officers pulled the curtains open to pull up my security camera out of the window, and he left the curtains open so I could see from those steps to the kitchen table where the computer was, and I saw the guy on the computer, and the computer was sitting here without password protection on when they came. And so for him to want to record, you know, I didn't get on your computer, is just a lie. It's just a way of documenting a lie. So let me get back to my notes. Remember, they moved me to the driveway so I couldn't see him on the computer. So my computer was on and not password protected when they came to the house. You know, but now the investigators claiming he wasn't never on the computer, and he's going to send it off to the state crime lab for an impartial viewing, but the investigators insisting he hasn't been on my computer when he has. You know, why would he want to do that other than that he's trying to plant something? Well, they sent the computer off. He said it would take 2 months. It's been almost 9 months of them investigating me, and they've had the computer for 6 months, for going on 6 months. So they didn't find anything. Of course they didn't find anything. There's nothing on it. And, you know, they keep my stolen property, and they know they found nothing as I didn't do anything, and there's nothing there to have. And, you know, whether that frustrates them, or they, of course, stole all my computer equipment and all my backups and everything so that they could get the videos I have of them stealing from me. You know, either way, that's why they don't want to give it back, because they're thieves. They're acting as robbers, and they're covering up a crime they committed. But of course, I have this enormous concern that, being they're such liars, that they're trying to plant evidence and then trying to send it off to the state crime lab to pin something on me. You know, when I go into what they were really here looking for, you'll see they're just looking for anything. I mean, they're just trying to get me at the behest of my former employer and keep me from being able to run for city council. Because a criminal can't run for city council. But, you know, I'm not a criminal. And, you know, I think I'd already pointed out that I'm not running anymore anyway, but it's not something I like. I just, you know, I mean, going through this, it's impossible for me to run. My point being is that after all this, they found no evidence of a crime, because there isn't one. Crimes I'm falsely accused of with vicious lies that can end my life as a free citizen. Take away my liberty. The only thing they have left is to claim some type of evidence they make up. If so, then of course they planted it, because I've not sent threatening letters to anyone, not to Mike Moore. I'm not following James Brazel around, taking pictures of him, stalking him. I mean, that's just disgusting, saying something like that. I haven't done this. Again, I want to point out, I think this is important, because I don't just want to be a person up here complaining like this and coming across with such emotion, and people thinking, well, he thinks that something happened to him that was so awful. Doesn't he know what happens to other people? I do. I read a lot, and I know what's happening to me is happening to other people in this country, and far, far worse. They're killing people. They're shooting and killing people. And that way where this ends. They're killing unarmed people and planting evidence on them, throwing tasers down next to them, and doing a lot more than what has been done to me, even. But how can you live when you know that any moment that a gang of armed robbers can show up that no one will hold accountable and tear your house apart, or shoot you and kill you like they're doing to other people? So again, I want to point out that what I'm going through is awful and completely unacceptable and not livable. But I believe it is about 1% of what minority folks and communities are encountering from the corrupt police state. You guys, you're tougher than I am. I just don't know how you stand it, how you put up with it. And I'm not saying you are putting up with it. I know you're trying to stop it, but it's more than I can stand. I don't pretend that what I'm going through and experiencing even remotely matches what minorities are going through in this police state. And I don't pretend that what I'm going through gives me a feeling for what you're going through. No one could understand, losing a child or losing a life like that. But we'll pick back up on this tomorrow. And with that said, I'll see you tomorrow.